everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this pretty little necklace and earring set with the newest treasure bags, the amber and aqua and the champagne and sapphire treasure bags. I have one in my hand here too, so I can kind of play with it. You can see it laying out really pretty here. But in my hand, you can see what it looks like against the skin. Turns out really pretty. Actually dangles very nicely on the neck. Looks really good. And I really enjoyed making this. Now I have added extra things to the treasure bag to make this. Quite a few extra things. But the design just was calling out to me, so I decided that I'd go ahead and make it. Of course, you can modify yours. You can use different colors in it. You can use different beads, however you want to do it. And I do have some of these little components on the website with some crystals with them. So if you want to make the necklace, you can. So this is what it looks like laying out. Let me back off a little so you can see the entire thing. And that's what that looks like. Oops, got a little blubbly there. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for this project today, I'm going to show you how to make a necklace and earring set with some of the things that are found in the newest treasure bags, the champagne and sapphire and the amber and aqua bags. In your bags, you have things that are common to both bags. So you will have, regardless if you have the amber or the champagne bag, you will have 5 clear crystals. So these are a little flat oval faceted crystal, and I'm going to be using the clear. Like I said, it's common to both bags. You can use your amber or excuse me, you can use your aqua or your sapphire color if you would like instead to add a little bit of color to this, because everything else is a neutral. You can definitely do it in your colors. So you have 5 clear, you have 5 amber, or excuse me, you have 5 aqua and 5 sapphire. I'm going to list on the website enough to make the necklace. I'm not putting 5 in, I'm putting 3 in. But if you want to make this necklace, I have some of these. They're limited. They're leftovers of the crystal and of this component. And I will put it in clear, and I will put it in aqua, and I will put it in sapphire on the website. So if you really want to make this necklace, you can. And then you can just come up with something to make your earrings with if you'd like that'll match. Now, this I'm offering for those that didn't get the bag, in case you want to make this necklace. And they will be posted so you can go to the website and get them. There will be a link in the description box beneath the video player. So that being said, this is what we're going to be using. We're going to be using this particular component that's in the bag. We're going to be using the 5 clear crystals that are in your bags. We're going to be adding to the bag some 4mm round glass pearls. This is kind of a creamy white color, and you don't necessarily have to use this. You can use one of the 4mm round crystals in your bag, especially if you go one color or the other. You can use those in your bag to add some color to it. So anything 4mm round is what I'm trying to say. I am going to add some 4mm round synthetic hematite in the gold color, little beads here. Now I have these on the website also if you want some. However, you can use whatever you would like, just more of your pearl, another accent, it doesn't matter. I am doing this because this gold and this gold go nicely together. I'm adding beading chain to it, which is a little different color gold. So I'm blending the 2 tones together by adding an accent of this color. That helps even everything out and make it look nice together. However, you can use anything you would like. Then we are going to be using these little crimp tube ends for the beading chain, and these I have on the website also if you would like them. I'm not trying to push the website. I just want to offer these to you if you would like to make this the same way I'm making it. Otherwise, just use your techniques with things you have on hand. So this is what I'm going to be using, is 5 of these little crimp tubes. They have a little circular end, a little loop on the end, and you can just crimp them onto your beading chain. We will also be using some beading chain in the gold tone. I have 18 inches cut, actually 18.5, to allow myself a little bit of room to trim if I need to. And then I have 3 segments of beading chain cut in 3 different lengths, and we will discuss that during the process of making the piece. I'm going to be using about 9 of these size 1 crimp beads. This is a crimp bead because it is round and it's beadle-on, and I'll be using about 9 of those. I'll be using some 20 gauge wire, and this I got at Hobby Lobby. It's just a gold tone, and this gold goes pretty well with this also. So I will be using some 20 gauge wire to make the earrings, and we will discuss exactly how much we need in the process of making the earrings. You will need 3 jump rings. I have 2 that are about 4 millimeter in diameter. That's the outside diameter, and then I have 1 that is 6 millimeter. I'm using the lobster claw clasp from the bag. So that's what I'm going to be using. And like I said, if you'd like to make this exactly the same way I am making it, you can find most everything available on my website if you would like to do that. Otherwise, just use what you have on hand, and let's make this project. Okay. So we're going to start this project by making 3 dangles that will hang in front of our pendant component, this thing here, this guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure out 3 pieces of beading chain, and we will modify this, but we're going to start with 2 3/4 inch, and then 2.5 inches, and then 2 inches. So each one is about 1/4 inch shorter than the last. You can make your dangles longer or shorter, but to hang in front of the pendant, you pretty much want them to be this size. And we're going to be using some of the little size 1 crimp beads here, and I said you would need 9 in the beginning of the video. You will need 12 of them. I recounted that, so a little correction there. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the longest piece of beading chain, or Coriana chain, some people call it. It's the same thing. We're going to pick up 1 of our crimp tubes onto this chain, if I can do it. Come here. Okay. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay. They're tiny little things, so be patient with me. Let me get you in close. And this is what this looks like. I've got 1 little tiny bead on there. I'm going to grab some flat nose pliers. I'm going to move this to the end of the chain to where there's about 1 millimeter of chain hanging out, and then I'm going to squeeze, just like this. And I'm going to squeeze it again to make sure it's nice and secure. And this is what you have. Let's back off a little bit now. We're going to put on one of our crystals. Slide this up through, and then we're going to put on a pearl. So we have this so far, and then we are going to put on another crimp tube or bead and slide it on. And then we're just going to crimp that little tube. Make sure that nothing is turned, your chain is straight, and just crimp it straight down so that when it flattens, both of them are flat, basically the same way. You don't want it to rumple your chain at all. Just like this. And then it's going to spin in there, but this is how you want it to look. Now, we're going to do that with all 3 of the pieces. So go ahead and put on your little crimp bead, your crystal, your pearl, and your crimp bead on the other 2 pieces, and we'll be back. Okay, so once you've put your crystals and your pearl and your little crimp beads onto your beading chain, then you're going to lay them out, making sure that the ends are all together so that you can see exactly the lengths of them and how they're going to lay together. Now, I want them to lay just to where the crimp bead is right about in alignment with the top of the crystal. So I'm just going to lay this out just like this, and then I can trim my little pieces of chain to match that first chain. So we want to make sure they're all laying out nice and neat. And you can see the excess on each one. And then you can just grab your end cutters, flush cutters, whatever you want to call it, and just cut them to where they are the same length as the first long one. The best you can. They move around and do little weird things, but get it as close as you can. Like that. Now I know that this is basically how my little pieces are going to lay together. Now I'm going to grab my first piece, my long piece, and I'm going to lay it against here, make sure it's where I want it to be, make sure it's not too long. So I'm going to lay it right here, lay this one here, and I think that's going to work out fine. So that's just so that you can measure it, just so you can see that your pendant's going to, how long it's going to hang on the bottom of your component here. And I don't know if I was in camera, I might not have been. So what I was doing, let me get in camera, is I was just laying these here to see how much length I'm going to have against my pendant. And this is what this is basically going to lay like. And that's what I want it to look like. So we're good there. Now we're going to take the longest one, or it doesn't truly matter, but I'm going to start with the longest one, and I'm going to get one of my little crimp ends here, and I'm going to get my crimping tool, and on the flat side of my crimping tool I'm going to arrange my crimp tube in the tool, in the second divot, the one closest to the handle, and I'm going to arrange it to where it's flush or even slightly inside the tool. So you want to be at the very end of the crimp tube here, and it's arranged like this. Now I'm going to pick up my piece of beading chain, and I'm going to try to keep it to where it's flat. The beading chain is flat on either side, so I don't want the sides to be in there. I want it to be laying correctly inside the tube. I'm going to push it in there until I feel it hit the top of the tube, and then I'm going to squeeze. And now this is what you should have, just like this. Then I'm going to hold on to it from this side because that keeps the crimp bead from spinning around inside my crimping tool. I'm going to go into the first divot of the crimping tool. You can see there's a little divot in the middle of this crimping tube. I'm going to place it straight up and down so that the sides of the crimp tube are touching my crimp tool. Make sure that I go all the way down to the end of the crimp tube, maybe even a slightly bit recessed, and then just squeeze it again. That will close that little crimp tube completely around the chain and make a nice, secure, really nice looking professional ending there, just like that. You're going to do that with all three of your crystals on the beading chain. As soon as we do that, then we will be back. Okay, so you can see that I have put all of my little crimp ends on all of my beading chain. So now what you need is you need a 6mm jump ring, and you need a 4mm round jump ring. And we are going to, let me make sure I have the same colors here. It looks like I have two different colors. So let me get the same color. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 6mm round jump ring, and we're going to open it. So just put a plier on either side, or I just opened that with my fingers, but just put a plier on either side of the opening and twist it open. And we're going to start with the longest one first. Actually, let's start with the shortest one first because I want them to lay this way. So we're going to put the shortest one on the jump ring like this, and then we're going to put on the next length and the next length. And now you have this, and make sure they lay nice. If they're not laying nice, you can take it off and turn it around. Sometimes it's just the way that the crimp ends are laying together. And then just close it just like you opened it. Just twist it back closed. Make sure it's closed very well, like this. And let me pick this up and rearrange it. So I'm being sloppy. Like that. That's how that should look. Make sure that it lays nice. Okay. Then you're going to open your little 4mm jump ring. And some of these are cut strange, so I am going to just cut the very end of this jump ring just to make it a little bit better so it closes better for me. And then I am going to open this jump ring. And I am going to place this 6mm jump ring on top of my unit, just like this. And I'm going to go through the 6mm jump ring that's on the 3 little dangles we made, and then I am going to go through the component with this jump ring, just like this. And then I am going to close this jump ring. Let me back off just a little so I stay in frame here, and close it nice and tightly. And now I can arrange it and back off a little more here and see what it looks like together. This little jump ring is the one that we will be putting our chain on. So we're just going to move it up a little bit and see what our dangles look like, which looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the piece of beading chain that we cut that's about 18.5, 19 inches long, something like that, depending upon the length you want. Of course, you can adjust that to any length you would like. I want to make around an 18-inch necklace, so I've got about 18.5 inches just to make sure that if I need to make any adjustments on the end, I still have my length that I want. Then I'm just going to put it through the little jump ring that's connecting the 2 components together. So let me see if I can get in here and just string it through there, just like that. Now I'm going to put the 2 ends together and just center it so that I know that I'm working in the center of my necklace on either side of it here. I'm going to turn it sideways. Like this. Now I can start putting a little embellishment of beads around. I want to make my beads just kind of to the end of how the chain wants to naturally curve. So let me rearrange here and get you in so you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep it centered. Of course, I can center it again a couple of times, but I'm just going to leave it laying there, and then I'm going to pick up 2 of my little 4mm pearls, and it takes a minute to finagle the chain in there. You can harden the ends of the chain with some super glue if you'd like to make it easier to slide your beads on, but we're not putting that many on, so I'm just going to kind of finagle my way through it here. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, there's another one. So 2 on this side and then 2 on this side. Just give me a minute, because you know, it just takes a minute to finagle things. And I'm going to put another pearl on here. Okay, so now I'm going to push these down on either side of that little jump ring, and then I'm going to arrange the other end of my chain, make sure it's exactly the same. and see how that goes pretty naturally with the curve of the chain. That works really well. Now, if you're using a different size bead, you just want to make sure that you are accommodating the chain curve. And then we're going to put on a crimp bead on either side. So I'm going to pick up a crimp bead on this side of the chain, maybe. Come here, please, come here. Please, please. No, it just doesn't want to behave. Okay, get on there, you. Alright, I'm going to drop him down. And then I'm going to put another crimp tube on this side, because I just want to stabilize my centerpiece to make sure it stays right where I want it. So I'm going to make sure that these beads are moved in tight. And with this one, a lot of times I will tell you not to crimp it really tight against the beads, but we want this to hold everything together. So we do want it somewhat secure and tight. So let me get in here and bring you down. Let's move this over. Make sure that the opposite ends of your chain are as close as you can get them. That way you know you're centered. I'm going to pull on my chain until I get the ends centered. And everything looks good. My beads are together. And then I'm just going to hold on to my chain. I'm going to crimp one of these down and then make sure I don't have him all crooked. Okay, so if you happen to get your crimp tube on there and you don't like it, then you've squeezed it straight down flat, go on the edges of it and just gently squeeze it again, and it will lift and you can reposition it, because everything on my necklace just messed up, and I'm going to leave it this part in here so you can see how I correct that, because that's going to happen. It just is. So let's do this again. I am going to put the ends of the chain together. Make sure on this end they're totally together. I'm going to hold on to that, and then I'm going to reposition my centerpiece. And bring the little crimp beads down and make sure that I'm not off center. That looks better. Just like that. So I am going to try to move this without making too much of a mess so you can see it. And this is what this looks like. And now I'm going to make sure my chain is not all twisted and my crimp bead is in the proper place, and I'm just going to squeeze this side. Once that side is secure, then you can go to the other side and you can kind of push against that crimp bead that you just put on, and you can squeeze it down. That way everything is tight and nice, and it makes kind of a bow in the chain. However, because you're doing that one side at a time and the first side isn't secure to push against, you may get a discrepancy in the length on the other side of your necklace. So I'm going to put this together as best as I can and see what a difference in chain I have. And you can see I have a little bit of difference. So when I pushed it around, it moved a little bit. So what I will do is I will just cut this. The same length. So let's see if they're the same. They're pretty much the same now. So I can make sure that everything stays nice and centered on my chain. Let me see. This moves around a lot, so I could still be a little bit needing more trimming. And that's why we cut a little extra, so that we can see if we need more trimming. As it's teeter-tottering. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. So this is what I've got. Let me straighten it out and show you what it looks like so far, so we can make sure we're doing everything correctly here. And then of course it wants to argue with me. So let's put this one here, put this one here, and this one here. Okay, so that's what I have so far, just like this. Let me back off so you can see it. Now that I have these two little crimp tubes here, I want to bring in some of my lighter color gold, since this is a little bit lighter than my chain, and I'm going to put on two of my little synthetic hematite gold beads. I have two colors on the website, so make sure that you purchase the lighter color if you are going to do that. And then we've dropped those two down, then we're going to put another crimp bead on. So let me grab some more crimp beads, and here they are. I'll get a couple more out. I'm going to need two. So now I can just put this on here. Drop it down, and then do the other side. And this just helps keep everything secure and nice. And put this one on. And now I will drop another crimp bead down on this side. Okay, straighten everything out, push them together. Make sure your chain is laying nice and flat so that you get your crimp tubes not all crooked on your chain here. And once you have that done, then you can grab a hold of this crimp bead. I'm going to hold on to the chain and kind of pull on it at the same time and squeeze. That keeps everything nice and straight. So you can see me do it on this side. So I'm holding onto this chain. I can now push against and make sure that my chain isn't twisted first, and hold on to it and then squeeze. Now you don't want those tremendously tight. If you get it a little too tight, again, you can loosen it, because that's just so tight that it's going to distort my necklace. So I am going to loosen this little crimp bead a little bit and do that again without making it so tight that my necklace is going to hang weird. Just want it right up next to those beads, but not squishing it. So now that's what I have. And now I am going to put on 3 little pearls on either side. Maybe. It's got to be boring watching me do this, sorry guys, but you know, beads are just going to do what they're going to do. And most of the time they don't want to do what I want them to do. Okay, let's put this guy in here. The struggle is real. Let's put on, oh, come on, bead. And like I said, if you harden the ends of your chain, you can pick up your beads a lot easier. But I don't seem to want to make things easier on myself today, so I'm just going with the torture here. Okay, and then I need 2 more crimp tubes, beads, whatever. And get 2 more of those out. And I will drop one on this side. And just keep it, get my chain nice and straightened up. And then I'm just going to hold on to it, kind of push down a little, and then back off slightly just to make sure that I don't crimp this really tight to where my beads just make my chain all weird. Let's see if that's too tight. It's about right. And go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll come back and finish up the ends. Okay, so I have finished my embellishment on either side, and it looks really pretty. I like it. Like I said, just make sure that you don't put these so tight that it makes your chain do weird things, and that it doesn't set nice and pretty in this little oval or half circle shape here. So now that I have both of my ends done on the embellishment, I want to finish up the ends of the necklace. Make sure at this point that you put your two ends together, lay out your necklace, making sure that it looks the same on both sides, and that your ends are the same length. If they are not, make sure that it's not rocking or doing anything weird. Make sure that it's laid out nice and neat, and you can trim your ends because you want them to be the same. Mine are pretty close, so I am going to call it good and not worry about trimming it. I could maybe take a smidge off of this one, just a smidge, maybe, come here. And now they're nice and the same length, and that way my centerpiece will stay nice and centered when I put my necklace on. Now we're just going to put on one of these little crimp tubes on either end, just like we did on the little dangles. So again, you're going to place a crimp tube in the second divot of your crimping tool. Just make sure that this side is nice and level, so you don't get a weird curve of your crimp tube once you put it on. So now I have it in the tool. I have it just slightly recessed on the side of the tool to make sure that I'm at the very edge of the crimping tube, and then I'm going to place my chain in until I feel it kind of touch the bottom of that tube. I'm going to squeeze, and now I have a nice little crease in the middle. I'm going to move this over to my left hand and hold on to it by the little loop. That way I can keep it from moving around. I'm going to place it now into my crimping tool sideways so that the little tubes on either side of the crease are touching the tool, just like this. Make sure it's somewhat recessed, just very slightly, so that I'm at the very end of the tube, and then squeeze. If you're too high up on the tube, you'll crush it and you'll just destroy your little tube. So the loop will get all messed up. And so you're going to do that on both sides of the chain, and once we have put our endings on the chain, we'll come back and put on our clasping and make a pair of earrings. Okay, so now I have both of my little ends on, and I am going to put on my clasping. So for the end with the lobster claw, I'm going to use a 4mm jump ring. I'm just going to find the opening and place a plier on either side and just twist it open like this, so you can see. And then I am going to put it on the lobster claw, and then I'm going to put it on the loop of the necklace and close it by just twisting it back, closed. And there's that. Now on this side, I'm just going to grab a 6mm jump ring, and you can put several jump rings on here to make an extender if you want also, but I'm just going to put one 6mm because this length is fine as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just going to put one 6mm jump ring on and close it. And now I have my clasping. So now this is what I have. Let me get it so you can see it. And I don't seem to be able to get it into my camera correctly. Whale poop. There we go. That's good enough, I guess. But that's what this necklace looks like. And when you pick it up, it'll dangle nicely. You may have to arrange your little dangles the first time you put it on, but after that, it stays pretty good. I tried it with my original design, and it worked out fine. So I wore it yesterday, and it was fine. So now that we have that, we are going to work on a pair of earrings to match. So let me get my things together. I'll show you what we're going to use, and we will make a pair of earrings. Okay, for the earrings, we are going to make ear wires first. Of course, you can use a pre-made ear wire. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you how to make one with a little pearl on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 pieces 2 inches long of 20 gauge craft wire, and I am using this wire elements from Beadsmith, and I believe I got it at Hobby Lobby. So then I am going to measure 1/4 of an inch down just to make sure they're both the same. I am going to actually measure my 1/4 inch, and I am going to bend it over. I'm going to put them both together here. And at 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to bend these straight over. So now I have little L's like this. I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and not so far down away from the tip, I am going to place my round nose plier so that the wire is flush with the back of it, just like this. I'm going to get you closer now. And I am going to start to turn. I'm going to turn as far as I can. Then I'm going to take my plier out. I'm going to turn it over, put it back in towards the end of that little wire, and I'm going to continue turning until I get a little loop that looks like this. Now, if you feel like it's not centered, you can put it towards the back of that loop, move it back, and then if it's not closed, you can grab your straight nose pliers and you can just close it. Just like this. So I'm going to do the other one. Just turn it as far as I can. Then I'm going to take my plier out, turn it over, go towards the tip of the wire, this part right here, and continue to turn. Now, let's see if I can close that better. So now I have 2 matching little loops on my wires here. Now I am going to pick up a pearl. I'm going to back off a little because I seem to get out of camera a lot lately. And I am going to just slide a little pearl on each one of these. Maybe. Come on, you, go on there. Okay, let me get a different pearl. I know this works because I've done it. I did it before, so I know it works. And let me grab another one and slide him on there. And then I'm going to grab my straight nose pliers, and right above this little pearl, I'm going to make sure that I have my little ear wire to where my loop is flat like this, okay? And then I am going to bend. I'm going to hold it up like this. I'm going to bend to the right here. So just a little bit above that pearl, about 1 millimeter, I'm going to bend this straight over like this. And if it's off kilter, you can straighten up your little loop and push your little wire sideways so that it is the same, just like this. And I'll do the same thing with the other one, making sure that my loop is sideways like this, flat against the bead mat, this way. Pick it up and hold it like this so that the bead remains, or the loop remains sideways. Go a little bit above that pearl and just bend the wire over. Again, I can make sure that this loop is straight and push my wire over so that it's a nice angle like this. I'm going to use bail pliers. You could use like something round like a marker or like those little glue things or something smaller than this, and just lay it on top and bend it over. Or you can use a bailing plier like I'm going to use. I want to use this side right here. I think that this one is going to be the right measurement for me. So I'm just going to place it inside here. I'm just going to balance my pearl here like this. And then I'm going to bring this wire around. And not quite all the way around, just like this. And take that off. Then I'm going to do the same with this one. I got bead mat on there. And I'm just going to place it in here. Now it's positioned. The bead is going to make the measurement away from the plier. So you don't have to worry about the placement of it. Just make sure it's flush with the plier and then just bring it around. About 3/4 of the way, just like this. And then they should look pretty close to the same here. Now, we can bring this up a little bit so it's not so forward. Just crank it up just a tiny bit on both of these. And then we're going to try to hold these together the best we can. The pearls are going to get in the way, but we're going to try to hold these together. Put the ends together the best you can get them, and then we're just going to trim this down just a little bit because they're a little long. So I'm going to trim them not quite 1/4 of an inch, just like this. And then while I'm holding them together, I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch up again and see if I can get them back together here. So I've got the ends of the wires flush. I'm just going to bend them up just like that and do it together so that they match well. And now they match pretty well. And I'm going to get a little file. So I've just got the coarse side of a fingernail file, and I'm just going to file the edges kind of around the edges so that I can get this nice and smooth. And I'll do that on both of them so that they don't hurt when you wear them. You can also adjust the way they look. So let's say I don't like this as far forward as it is. I can just grab gently and adjust it until it's the way I look. I like the way it looks. Doing this, you can distort it a little. I did distort it just slightly, so be careful when you do that. And this one I'll have to kind of play with and fix him a little bit because I distorted him slightly. And you can bring them in, you can adjust them however you want. Just make sure you try to keep them the same. And then I'm going to get my bench block. And I'm just going to tap this area here. So let me adjust my camera so you can see what I'm doing. My bench block weighs a ton. So I'm just going to go to the edge of the bench block, set my ear ring here with the pearl off so that I don't break him. And then I'm just going to tap here on the loop part. Just a little bit. Turn it over and do a little bit more. Makes it a little bit more decorative, and it stiffens your ear wire so that it will stay in shape. Turn it over. And again, you can adjust them however you want to adjust them so that they look pretty. And there are my ear wires. So now that we have 2 ear wires made, we are going to make the component for the earring itself, the dangle part. So let me gather what we need and we'll get started on it. Okay, so for the actual component for the earring, we're going to use 2 of the crystals, and then I did add 2 little head pins, and we're going to use 2 little pearls. Now you don't have to do the pearl dangle if you don't want to, but I am going to go ahead and do a dangle at the end. I've got 2 pieces of wire that I have cut at 3.5 inches long, and this is my 20 gauge wire again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 1, and at the end I am going to go, just not quite 1/4 inch, just a little ways down, and I am going to bend a tiny little L like this. I want to make a very small loop at the very end of this wire to hold my dangle and to stop my crystal from falling off. I'm going to go at the very end of my pliers so that it's small, and I'm going to start to turn. And I'm going to turn as far as I can, then take my plier out, get you a little closer, take my plier out, turn it over, place it back in, and continue to turn. Now, because this is so small, you're going to find that you'll probably get a one-sided little loop like this. Put it back into the loop like this, and just move it back so that you can center it a little bit. Then grab your flat nose pliers and close the little loop by lifting the open side and bringing it towards the wire, kind of shimmy and shake it down so you have a little tiny loop like this. Make sure it's closed, and then drop a pearl on here. And then we are going to drop on our crystal. And then I'm going to go to the top of the loop, or top of the crystal here. I'm going to place my round nose pliers right at the top here. Now, you can make sure that your loops are the same direction, but it doesn't really matter because you can change that in the end anyway. So just place it right above the crystal and make sure you're touching the crystal, and then just bend your wire straight over the plier like this. Then come up by turning into that bend you just created. Turn your plier vertical up and down like this and bring the wire over the top of the plier. Then as you come around, turn your wrist and bring the plier horizontal or parallel to the bead mat again so that you're up and down like this. Pull that out, and you have something that looks like this. Again, I can center it by putting it back in and moving the little loop over at the back of the loop. Then I'm going to hold on to this with my plier, and I'm going to just start turning it. And you can use another pair of pliers if you'd like, or you can use your fingers, and I think I'm just going to use my fingers. I'm going to start to turn it and just lay each turn over itself or underneath itself so it's nice and neat like this. And I'm just going to start going over the top of the bead, and I'm just going to wrap it around as far as I can go and get to the end here, and I'm just going to bring him around the best I can. And you can trim it, or you can take, I have these little crimpy plier things. I'm just going to kind of grab it with the crimp side and just tuck it in there so that I'm going to tuck the end underneath the turns of wire I made. And so I have kind of the stacked effect here. And then my loop doesn't look perfect, so I'm going to move it back a little bit like this. And I can doctor him up a little bit. It's just kind of a messy wrap. I'm not doing a perfect wrap. And this is what I have. Then I'm going to take a pearl, and drop it on this little head pin. And this head pin is very small, so I'm not going to have a lot of room to work with it, but that's okay. I'm going to drop it at the end here. Then above the pearl, I'm going to bend the wire over. I'm going to cut this wire down a little bit. So it is actually enough to work with. I'm going to cut it down so it's about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to take my plier, place it at the end, my round nose plier, and start to turn. Turn as far as I can, take my plier out, turn it over, put it back in towards the end of the wire, and grip it tight and turn it. And now I have a little dangle that I can put on the end of my earring. But I find that this loop is just a little bit big. I think it's a little big. So I'm going to doctor it up. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just take, about 1 millimeter off on the end here. Just like that. Then I'm going to put my round nose plier back in there. And I'm just going to close it. Small, it's hard to hold on to. And now I don't have quite as big of a loop on there. And I'm going to straighten that loop out because it's kind of bent because I just mangled him. Like that. Now I can take this little loop that I just made and I can open it on the side that isn't attached. You just open it, lift it up like this, and then drop it on here. And then close the loop. Then we're going to grab one of the ear wires we made, and on the side that's open, down here on this loop, I'm just going to open it up a little bit, like this. See if you can see that it's open. And then I'm going to drop on my component, and then I'm going to close this loop again. This plier is kind of messing up my wire. I shouldn't have used it, but I did. So, you know. And so here is my earring. Just like that. And it'll match really nicely. So I'm going to get the other earring made. I'm going to bring out my necklace and show you what everything looks like. And here, my friends, is our cute little set. I think it turned out really pretty. So I'm going to bring you down here and let you see the focal area. And that's just, it turned out really pretty. I'm very happy with that. And I hope you are too, and I hope you try it. Thanks for watching. If you liked this tutorial, maybe you'll consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell. I would truly appreciate it. It does really help my channel, and I hope you have fun playing with your treasure bags. And if you don't have a treasure bag, have fun anyway. All this stuff is available, so you can try it or just use different things in your bag to get something similar as a result. Bye, everyone.